They never wanted you to see this. They never wanted you to ask this question. And if you're watching right now, Maras, you're already in too deep. Because buried beneath headlines, algorithms, and carefully controlled narratives lies a secret. A secret about a faith, not just surviving, but spreading with a force the world can't explain. Islam. No marketing machine, no global campaign, no billion-dollar movement. And yet the numbers are undeniable. Right now, even as you hear this, somewhere in the world, someone is whispering the Shahada, the declaration that changes a soul forever. They're not forced. They're not brainwashed. They're awakening. So the question is, why? Why is Islam, the most misunderstood religion on earth, growing at a rate no ideology can match? This isn't about conversion. This isn't about religion versus religion. This is about truth, power, and what happens when the human soul hears something it can no longer ignore. But before we go deeper, let me warn you, once you understand what's happening, once you see why this faith is spreading behind borders, through prisons, across elite universities, and into the hearts of people who were raised to reject it, you can't unsee it. Because Islam isn't growing because of war. It isn't growing because of poverty. It's growing in the richest cities, in the most advanced nations, among the most educated minds. People who were once atheists, agnostics, Christians, Jews, Hindus, are walking away from what they were given and choosing Islam. Silently, steadily, unstoppably. But why? What does it offer in a world drowning in distractions, addiction, depression, and deception? This is not a theory. This is a pattern, a shift. And to truly understand it, you have to let go of what you were taught and listen with a different part of yourself. Because this isn't just about belief. This is about a system of life, time, self-control, power, and truth that has been hidden in plain sight. The kind of system that makes men unbreakable. The kind that brings women peace in chaos. The kind that brings billionaires to their knees in tears and inmates to their feet in purpose. Islam is not rising by chance. It is rising because the world is collapsing. And in collapse, people don't seek entertainment. They seek truth, structure, discipline, meaning. That's what you're about to see. But understand this. This isn't just a video. This is a descent into clarity. And when we reach the bottom, you'll never be able to see the world the same again. Welcome to the first step. You were trained not to look, not to question, not to ask why millions of men and women, highly educated, powerful, disciplined, are walking toward Islam like it's a fire in the middle of a frozen world. You were programmed to believe it's foreign, dangerous, oppressive. But now the illusion is cracking. Because here's the truth you were never told. Islam doesn't spread through force. It spreads through alignment with how reality actually works, with time, with the body, with the soul, with the universe itself. See, while the world drowns in chaos, confusion, and so-called freedom, Islam offers something radical, order. 5 prayers a day, fasting from dawn to dusk, clean money, clean food, clean heart, clear purpose, clear family structure, a code, a timetable, a system. And that system is not weak. It doesn't bow to opinion. It doesn't bend for convenience. It's not updated by culture or trends. It's solid. It's ancient. It's unshakable. And that's exactly what the modern soul is starving for. In a world addicted to freedom without responsibility, dopamine without discipline, and knowledge without wisdom, Islam commands the opposite. Discipline first, desire second, service above ego, truth above feeling, structure above chaos. And suddenly, the man who was lost finds himself again. The woman who was exhausted from performing finds stillness again. The prisoner, the professor, the actor, the soldier, they all see it. Because Islam isn't just about worship. It's a complete architecture of life. Wake early, pray at dawn, eat only what is pure, Earn only what is clean. Guard your eyes, guard your tongue, guard your soul. Every act accounted for. This is not a religion of suggestion. It is a system of transformation, and it terrifies people. Not because it's violent, but because it's too powerful to manipulate. You can't buy it. You can't break it. You can't twist it to fit the agenda. And when people see that, truly see it, they snap out of the matrix. No more chasing every trend. No more being a slave to desire. No more living without knowing why. Islam is growing because it reminds people of something they forgot. You were not made to drift. You were made to obey a higher order, not men, not governments, not influencers, but God. That's the force waking people up. Not because it's fashionable, not because it's easy, but because it brings peace that doesn't shake with the wind. And deep down, even if they won't admit it, people crave to be led by truth again. Now ask yourself, if this is the structure behind the rise, what's the mind behind it? What happens to a person when they live this system for real? Let's go deeper. You've seen the surface, the prayer, the fasting, the structure, but now we step inside the mind of the one who lives it, not pretends, not performs, lives it. Because here's what nobody tells you. When a person truly submits to Islam, their mind is rewired. Gone is the constant noise of self-doubt, anxiety, identity confusion. Gone is the mental slavery to comparison, competition, and artificial success. What replaces it? Clarity, not temporary motivation, not surface-level positivity, but a foundational identity rooted in something no algorithm, no culture, no trend can touch. I am a servant of the Most High, and nothing else controls me. Do you understand what kind of mental freedom that creates? The average person today is mentally hijacked by media, by social pressure, by ego, by desire. But the one who truly embraces Islam, their mind becomes a fortress. Because Islam doesn't just tell you what to do, it trains your mind how to think. It kills the lie that you're here to chase pleasure. It destroys the illusion that truth bends to your feelings. It teaches you how to walk in this world with power, but without pride. And when you pray 5 times a day, when you face one direction, in submission, your brain begins to rewire. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop chasing the world. You start mastering yourself. This is what Islam gives the modern mind. Mental sovereignty. No more being a puppet. No more being pulled by every temptation. No more being defined by trauma. The one who submits to God becomes immune to manipulation. And that's why the system fears it. Because a person with unshakable identity, with unwavering discipline, with non-negotiable principles, can't be sold lies, can't be seduced by vanity, can't be broken. This is why Islam is rising, quietly, powerfully, globally. Not because of trends, but because of transformation. Because a human being who wakes up and says, I know who I am. I know why I'm here. I know who I serve, is more powerful than any government, any media outlet, any influencer. Islam isn't about oppression. It's about liberation. Not from responsibility, but from illusion. And that's what the modern soul is dying for. But most people won't tell you this because they don't want free minds. They want followers, slaves to self, slaves to impulse, slaves to a system that never lets you rest. But in Islam, the soul rests because it's no longer in conflict. It finally knows, I don't have to be God. I just have to obey him. And that obedience unlocks power. But this mental power doesn't happen by accident. It comes from one source most people ignore. Time. Here's the part that snaps people out of sleep, because once you see it, you can't go back. Islam isn't just a belief system, it's a divine time system. Every second, assigned. Every hour, aligned. Every day, calibrated with discipline, intention, and higher command. You think you're free now? Think again. Most people are slaves to time, scrolling, rushing, procrastinating, distracted, fragmented. Never fully here, never fully alive. But Islam pulls you out of the fog. Fajr, Dur, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. These aren't just prayers. They are divine appointments, scheduled resets designed to realign your soul with its purpose. Every few hours, you're pulled back from the illusion, back to stillness, back to submission, back to the truth. While the world is running on chaos, you're moving in harmony. That's not random. That's not cultural. That's warfare against spiritual entropy, because your enemy isn't just sin. It's distraction. And the one who can't control their time, can't control their life, can't control their soul. But Islam, it doesn't ask you to manage your schedule. It gives you one, fixed, immutable, divine. And here's the secret. Time is where power lives, not in money, not in connections, not even in intelligence. It's in what you do with each breath and whether those breaths build you or destroy you. Islam hands you back the control. It tells you when to eat, when to fast, when to rise, when to sleep, when to act, when to rest. And in a world that glorifies burnout and busyness, Islam glorifies presence. You're not just surviving the day, you're mastering it. And that kind of structure, it produces a different kind of human. Someone who doesn't wake up confused, someone who doesn't need a life coach, a journal, or 10 productivity apps. Just the adhan, just the prayer mat, just the command, come to success. Because when you control your time, you become untouchable. And that's why Islam is growing. Not because of conversion techniques, but because people are drowning in wasted time. And suddenly they find a system that honors every second. No more chasing the clock. You're in sync with the rhythm of the divine. It's not just about belief. It's about alignment. And aligned humans are powerful. But don't miss this. Time structure alone is not enough. You need something deeper. You need why. And that's where most systems collapse. But Islam doesn't just give you time. It gives you purpose inside of time. And that purpose, it's not about you. It's about surrender. It's about legacy. It's about eternity. So right now, I want you to drop a phrase in the comments. Not for me, for you. To mark the moment your awareness shifts. Write this twice. I was made for more. I rise through surrender. Again, I was made for more. I rise through surrender. Because when you understand purpose inside of time, you realize you were never meant to drift. You were meant to dominate yourself, your thoughts, your life. And Islam was always the blueprint. Power. It's the word they twist, manipulate, and hide from you. Because if you ever truly understood the power you hold, you'd stop being controllable. And this is where Islam does what no ideology, no self-help book, no philosophy can. It reveals that real power doesn't come from what you own. It comes from what you master, starting with yourself. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "The strong man is not the one who overcomes others by force. The strong one is he who controls himself in a moment of anger." Let that sink in. Because this flips the modern definition of power on its head. You've been taught that dominance means wealth, violence, followers, fame. But Islam teaches that mastery over the self is the highest throne. And it's not a metaphor, it's literal. Your mind can be trained to silence doubt. Your heart can be purified of envy, lust, pride, fear. Your body can be used as a weapon of service instead of vanity. But it starts with one word, submission. You cannot master the external world if you are a slave to the internal one. And Islam knows this. That's why everything begins with Tawheed, the oneness of God. It says, "You are not the center of the universe. He is." And once you submit to that, you are freed from everything else. You no longer seek validation from people. You no longer fear opinions. You no longer chase what doesn't feed the soul. Because here's the hidden secret. The moment you surrender to Allah, you reclaim everything else. Your mind becomes focused. Your heart becomes unbreakable. Your actions become precise. This is not weakness. This is the highest form of strength. You think converting to Islam is easy? You think wearing hijab, lowering your gaze, avoiding riba, praying at dawn is for the weak? No. It takes warriors. It takes someone who has already seen what the world offers and said, that's not a no, for me. It takes someone who could blend in and chooses instead to walk against the grain, to be mocked, to be questioned, to be misunderstood. Why? Because they've tapped into a power the world cannot explain. Conviction. That kind of conviction scares empires. That kind of discipline cannot be bought. That kind of submission produces lions, not sheep. And slowly, the world is noticing. From inner city streets to elite boardrooms, prisons to universities, they're seeing people walk away from everything and into Islam. Because that power, the power of self-mastery through divine obedience, it's rare, it's radiant, and it's real. But power doesn't just exist in the personal, it exists in the collective. There's a reason why empires have feared Islam since the moment it emerged. It's not the beard, not the hijab, not the Arabic, not the rituals. It's the unity. Because in a world engineered to divide by race, by politics, by class, by ego, Islam says something terrifying to the system. You are one ummah, one body, one pulse, one direction, under one God. Do you realize what that means? It means a man in Ghana and a woman in Detroit can bow in the exact same motion, say the exact same words, and feel the exact same truth without ever meeting. That's not religion. That's a global code of synchronization. And in a world built on tribalism and algorithms, where every system tries to isolate you, market to you, control you, Islam gives you belonging without dependence. You don't need to fit in. You already do. Because once you say La ilaha illallah, you are no longer an individual floating in chaos. You are part of a force, a spiritual civilization that transcends time, race, and geography. No passports, no elections, no trending hashtags. Just truth, carried from heart to heart by people who may have nothing in common, except everything that matters. The world doesn't know what to do with that, because it sees Muslims praying in the street, covering in heat, fasting when others feast, and still rising, still united, still multiplying. How do you stop that? You can't. Because unity rooted in submission is unbreakable. And don't be fooled. The narrative that Muslims are divided, that's the lens of the disbelieving world. Because even in our struggles and imperfections, you will still see millions move in harmony at the sound of one call. Allahu Akbar. Where else in the modern world do you see that? You don't. And that's why the rise of Islam is not just religious. It's civilizational. It's not a movement. It's a return to something primal and pure, a return to order in chaos, to truth in deception, to unity in division. And that scares the world. Because it means people are waking up from the matrix and finding a place that doesn't just accept them, but transforms them. No matter their past, no matter their pain, no matter their passport. One ummah, one qibla, one purpose. And that kind of unity, that's what topples empires. But we're not done yet. Because Islam's rise is not only due to its clarity or unity, it's also because of what it reveals about failure. Failure. That word has been used to destroy men, to humiliate women, to keep millions trapped in cycles of self-hate, regret, and despair. But Islam rewires the meaning of failure itself. Because what if I told you, failure isn't the end? It's the door, a secret door, hidden in plain sight, that only opens to those who fall, but rise again. The world tells you, you lost, you're worthless, you're done. But Allah says, do not despair of the mercy of Allah. Indeed, Allah forgives all sins. Quran 39:53. Where the world sees a stain, Islam sees a starting point. Where the world labels you a failure, Islam calls you a seeker. Because here's what they never taught you. Your rock bottom might be your invitation to rise. How many people do you think found Islam not on a mountain of success, but in a prison cell? Not in wealth, but in debt? Not in a party, but in the silence after it? Islam meets people where the world has discarded them and says, you still have worth, you still have breath, you still have a chance. This isn't self-help fluff. This is divine truth. Every failure in your life, every heartbreak, betrayal, collapse was a divine interruption to wake you up, to reroute your path, to bring you back to the one who never fails. You thought you were being punished, but maybe you were being purified. You thought you lost everything, but maybe you were being prepared for everything real. Because failure in this world means nothing if you win in the next. That's the shift Islam gives you. It flips the lens. You're not here to impress people. You're here to pass the test. And Allah is not looking for perfect people. He's looking for people who get up again, who repent, who break down and whisper, Ya Allah, I have no power without you. That moment right there is not weakness. That is power. Power the world will never understand. Bika. Use when you finally let go of your ego, your pride, your illusions. You become unstoppable. Islam doesn't shame your failure. It transforms it. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself was orphaned, rejected, mocked, boycotted, wounded. But he rose, not through revenge, not through ego, through submission. And so can you. If you failed, good. That means you're alive. That means you can rise. That means you're about to discover what it really means to live with purpose. Now, if this is speaking to your soul, if your old self is crumbling as you hear this truth, I want you to comment right now. My fall was my awakening. Say it again. My fall was my awakening. Lock that phrase into your identity. Because it's no longer about what you lost. It's about what you're about to become. There's something you don't know about the people who convert to Islam. They didn't just change religion. They changed dimensions. Because when you walk away from the world's lies and walk toward the truth, you don't just gain a faith. You gain an identity the world can't manipulate anymore. Think about it. What kind of courage does it take for a woman who once partied every weekend to put on the hijab and walk into a room that will judge her? What kind of inner power does it require for a man raised on alcohol, lust, and ego to drop it all for 5 daily prayers and a quiet surrender to the unseen? That's not weakness. That's not blind faith. That's rebellion against the system itself. Because every person who enters Islam from the outside walks away from comfort, approval, and often family for something they can't even prove to others. They walk by light while the world walks by applause. And the irony, the world that says be yourself turns on you the moment you choose to be Muslim. You're too extreme, too covered, too foreign, too backwards. But here's what the world can't understand. These people didn't convert to Islam because they were brainwashed. They converted because they were finally unbrainwashed. They saw the lies. They saw the emptiness of modern life. The hypersexualized distractions, the hollow spirituality, the infinite scrolling, the endless chasing. And they woke up. They realized, I don't want to be free to sin. I want to be free from sin. They realized, peace doesn't come from freedom. It comes from submission. So they submitted. And the second they did, their entire purpose realigned. From make money to earn Jannah. From be liked to be sincere. From live once to live forever. That's not just religion, that's resurrection. And here's the craziest part. Many of them say the pain of leaving their old legacies, Eves, was nothing compared to the peace they now carry. The family that rejected them, the friends that mocked them, they don't hurt anymore. Because once you taste real Tawheed, the oneness of God, you can't go back to being owned by the world. You've seen the Matrix, and you walked out of it. And for the first time in your life, you're not surviving. You're living. You've been lied to about Islam. They told you it was just rituals, rules, restrictions, something to hold you back. What they didn't tell you is that Islam is a complete mind system, not just a faith. A framework for dominating your lower self, training your instincts, and awakening your higher purpose. You want mindset? Islam gave you mindset 1,400 years ago. Because here's what most people don't understand. Islam doesn't just ask you to pray. It asks you to master time. Daily prayers, each with its own window, each pulling you back from chaos to clarity. It's not just worship, it's discipline engineering. Fajr trains you to beat your laziness. Duhur trains you to stop in the middle of grind mode and realign. ASR prepares you to finish strong. Maghrib resets you before the night. Isha silences the noise and brings you peace. That's a full neurocognitive reset, designed by the creator of your psychology. And the fasting? It's not about hunger. It's about control. When you can say no to food and water in private, when you can resist every desire with no one watching, you've activated internal dominance. You become a soldier of your own soul. And let's talk about mindset under pressure. While the world tells you, chase dopamine, avoid pain. Islam says, indeed, with hardship comes ease. It rewires your response to struggle. No panic, no victimhood. Instead, sabr, tawakkul, sujud. Islam doesn't remove the storm. It makes you calm within it. While the world breaks under pressure, you rise. Because your strength doesn't come from how you feel. It comes from who you trust. That's why Muslim warriors feared no enemy. Why Muslim women could walk with dignity in a sea of temptation. Why believers smiled in prisons, whispered dhikr in isolation, and found power in silence. Because the mindset wasn't built in a gym. It was forged in prayer, in sifat, wujud, in obedience to the one who controls all outcomes. And when your mind is aligned with your soul, you no longer need the world's validation. You move with power and purpose. So yes, Islam is the fastest growing religion, but not because of trends, not because of marketing, not even because of dawah. It's growing because people are awakening to their power, to their purpose, to their Lord. And when you align with that truth, you're not just motivated, you're reborn. There's a reason they never wanted you to find this. A reason why Islam has been misrepresented, distorted, attacked relentlessly across media, education, politics, every layer of influence. It's not random. It's not ignorance. It's strategic warfare. Because if you knew what Islam really is, you'd be free. Not just spiritually, mentally, psychologically, economically, socially, existentially. You'd break from the systems that control you. From the mental cages that make you consume endlessly, sin proudly, obey blindly, all while thinking you're free. But Islam teaches you to obey only one. And that right there is the threat. Because a person who submits to God cannot be owned by anyone else. Governments can't program you. Corporations can't bait you. Desires can't enslave you. Fears can't paralyze you. That's what Islam gives. And that's why they hide it. They tell you Islam oppresses women, while capitalism sells her body to profit. They tell you Islam is violent, while wars are waged for oil, greed, and domination. They say Islam is outdated, but when the world collapses, people find their way back to Quran. Why? Because it doesn't change. It's timeless. Because it came from beyond time. Look around. People are starving for truth, choking on freedom, dying of anxiety in a world filled with distractions. And then, in the silence between breakdowns, they hear the adhan, and something inside stirs. A memory, a whisper, a calling. They come to Islam because they see this isn't just a religion. It's the map out of the illusion. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. The final manipulation you must understand is that the system isn't afraid of Islam because it's different. It's afraid because it's true. Truth is the only thing that can't be controlled. It doesn't need permission. It doesn't need validation. It just is. And Dio, ep down, you've always known something was missing, that your soul wasn't designed for this world's chaos. Now you know why. Because you weren't made for this system. You were made for submission. Not to power, not to pleasure, but to the most merciful, the most powerful, the one. So I leave you with this. If your heart is pounding, if your mind is still, if your soul is awake, then don't run from it. You were led here for a reason. And maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just a video. It was your invitation. Welcome to the truth. Welcome to Islam.